Ciao ragazzi, my name is Anthony. It's a very exciting time of year. I really dislike approaching a certain other derby, but for this one, the nerves flow in a much more exciting way. Call it family history, call it just tradition, call it culture, call it whatever you want, but it's Derby della Madonnina weekend. And I'm pumped. It's 7 a.m. here in Sydney. It's the afternoon, evening over there. So I'm going to welcome two very valued guests. It's my good friend Alex Donno. Thank you for joining me, my friend.
My pleasure. And this is, we get these at least twice per year, sometimes more than that with Coppa Italia. But I get so many butterflies before the Milan Derby. This is just an unbelievable time, and I cherish every second of it. And hopefully, the match doesn't give me too many heart attacks.
Absolutely, man. I'm joined by our friend Miguel, Milano Miguel. It's a pleasure to have you back on the channel. I think second time on Inter Worldwide, and it's Derby time again, my bro. You excited?
Definitely excited. I think we have quite the form in the league right now, and we're looking to continue to hold that on. So going into this match, there's a lot of emotions because of the passion and the history between the two sides. So it's going to be a good one.
I know the last few seasons, Inter under Conte, Milan developing their identity under Pioli, but even slightly before that under Spalletti is where we saw the derby start to pick up the momentum of old. Again, we went through the era where Inter won the treble, Milan won the 2011 Scudetto, and then after that was just a horrible run of derbies. I mean, I remember celebrating when Inter won a couple of those derbies 1-0, but it was a short-lived high because both teams were just in such a dire state domestically. But both of our teams have really looked like in the last few years, maybe ours just a little more than yours because we've got that tangible trophy to go with it. But the form that Milan have showed this season and the way that they have built their squad over the last few years, there's a big reason why this derby has picked up a lot more hype in the last few years than not. So I'll go over to Alex first. I mean, great form coming into this game from both Milan clubs. A good start to the season under Inzaghi. I think had Milan not been in such good form, Alex, we'd be looking at this season a lot more optimistically. But big ups to them; they're keeping going all the way at the moment, man.
Yeah, in recent matches, both domestically and then most recently in Champions League, Inter had, I'm not going to say a great first half performance against Sheriff because they just were not clinical, but finished off the game nicely, got 6 points from Sheriff, and then domestically had picked up a couple of clean sheets and put in good performances against the likes of Udinese and Empoli. So we're starting to see more of an identity developing with Inter, and I guess you could have assumed it might take some time for that identity to develop under Inzaghi. Better spacing, not so many gaps between the midfield and the defense. And, the attack's been a little bit inconsistent, but they are scoring goals at the end of the day. I think something that obviously gives me extra butterflies heading into this match. And, Anthony, you and I and Miguel, we were talking about this slightly before we started the show. We were talking about this off air from an Inter point of view. You haven't seen the signature victory yet. Like, you haven't seen the great performance against the biggest or the toughest opposition, right? You've lost to Lazio. You've had a draw with Atalanta, a very disappointing draw with Juventus. And it's not the Juventus of years ago. It's the Juventus of this season that's been beaten by worse teams already this year than Inter. So you haven't seen the breakout performance against tough competition. And in this one, the competition is very tough. I mean, you have a Milan side that's absolutely flying, especially domestically, and they have more adversity, which has kind of become it's become par for the course with Milan, losing players either due to injury or, in the case of Teo Hernandez, due to a red card, and yet it seems like no matter who's in and out of the lineup, they continue their good form. The next man up mentality has been great for Milan. So I think the question would be, can Inter, exploit the goalkeeping? Can they exploit, Teo's absence? These are the questions that Inzaghi and company will have to answer.
Well said, man. Going over to Miguel for your initial thoughts going into the derby, even form aside, I mean, the hype is really, really big, but both sides are going to come out absolutely firing in this one. I'm looking forward to it. What are your initial thoughts going in before we head into the probable lineups?
Initial thoughts going in, I think that, as you mentioned, over the last couple of seasons, I think really after the COVID lockdown break, Milan, finally tapped into the Milan identity. Since the COVID lockdown break, they've been on form. They found their identity. They found that belief in themselves that even when they face adversity such as injuries, a red card, or losing your star man, you're not having an adequate striker, they still come to play and believe in themselves that they're able to achieve. And I think that that has really been the thing that's been pushing this Milan team. Yes, we have the absence of Theo Hernandez, but somebody is ready to step up and do what Theo Hernandez usually does. It may not be the same gameplay or, the style of play that we play originally if we were to have Hernandez, but you have plenty of guys. You have Ibra, you have Brahim Diaz, Frank Kessie, Sandro Tonali, Ismail Benacer. All these guys are ready to step up, not to mention the leadership of Simon Kjaer, Calabria, and Tomori at the back line. So going into this game, like, even though, we don't have Mike Mignon, who's our star world-class goalkeeper, I think that we still have a great core in our team that we're not missing too much, that we still will be able to compete with Inter.
Yeah, well said, man. I would have to agree, and I think the biggest shout for that is the midfield depth at the moment. That whole Kessie Tonali pairing, and God forbid Benacer is available as well. Brahim Diaz just in front. Milan has really sorted their midfield out in a very, very structured way. I mean, the average age is just absolutely fantastic. But let's go over to the starting lineups for this match. Pardon me, predicted starting lineups for this match. It's going to be pretty good. I can't wait for this one. I'm just looking at a little bit of the news to make sure it's all right. Alex, we've got the luxury of having absolutely no injuries in this one. No injuries whatsoever. So I guess Simone Inzaghi is just continuing to be spoiled for choice in terms of his selections. I know there were a couple of games this season where we might have not started the midfield that we wanted, or we may have had one of our attackers out. But at the moment, with everybody sort of firing whenever they do take the pitch, no one is really out of form, mate.
Yeah, and I think to me, it's pretty easy to predict the lineup for this one. I'm going to see if it's Stretcher. Is that a Google Translate?
Yeah, good on it. That's the English translation for
that is too funny.
And Bastoni. Check out Sticks at left center back.
Yeah, I'm looking over this, and I agree 1,000%. And I'm not cheating because I have the graphic in front of me. This is exactly the way I expect Simone Inzaghi to go. He's had a very clear, what he considers to be his best 11, his big game 11, because we've had at times squad rotation depending on the quality of the opponent. But when you're going up against, in the past it's been the Atalantas, Lazio, Juventus, and now Milan, this is clearly Inzaghi's big match 11 with Handanovic in net. Obviously, there's no reason when healthy to do anything with your center backs. I see my good pal Sticks there, a.k.a. Bastoni, De Vrij, and Skriniar. In the midfield, Brozovic, who is in hellaciously good form this season. Same can be said for Barella. The one guy obviously we worry about, and I'm sure Miguel is going to chuckle about this one, is Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Usually you get the bad from him, not the good. I just wonder if I'm going to give Hakan any sort of a benefit of the doubt and any sort of optimism, it would be hopefully he is extra motivated to face his former side, and maybe we'll get a gem of a performance. Those have been few and far between. Darmian and Perisic at the wingbacks, absolutely. Perisic has been in tremendous form, and Matty Darms is usually underestimated. And yeah, Lautaro and Dzeko up front. So yeah, this is Inzaghi's big match 11. As far as who I'd like to see, Anthony, as substitutes, I love an injection of Arturo Vidal in the second half because he's been in very good form this season, and typically he's usually better even off the bench, kind of injecting some extra energy and physicality in games. So I'd like to see him in the second half come on for Hakan, unless Hakan's just on a tear and playing out of his mind. Vidal, I think, will find his way into this match. And yeah, I'd like to see Joaquin Correa come on if the score is close, because he's a Milan killer. Like, Joaquin Correa scored some beautiful goals against Milan in a Lazio shirt. So you'd like to see what he can do in this game. So, and then, I wonder, I'm assuming at some point we'll probably see DiMarco come on. I wonder if we'll see Denzel Dumfries, who's not been in great form. But yeah, I definitely want to see Vidal and Correa at some point in this match.
Words out of my mouth. I barely need to comment on it, apart from the fact that Alexis Sanchez, even if the
That's
game is tight
one.
or if we're leading or if we're trailing, Alexis Sanchez this season is just really playing like he's got a point to prove every time he takes the pitch. And his sort of ability to drop back and even play that Hakan role a little bit and just hold the ball. there's no one better in our team at doing it that is able to protect the ball and just create something out of nothing and just be able to do it all from a technical point of view. So I think Alexis Sanchez sees minutes in this derby no matter what the scoreline is. Milano, it's going to be tough. They got such a good-looking lineup. Miguel, it's over to you, man. Is this how you see it going down for you? I know that Rebic is clear to appear in the derby, but maybe he won't be starting just to make sure the energy and intensity is good from the get-go. And, hey, can't really bench Leao at the moment either.
Yeah, I think that this lineup is very accurate. We have Tatarusanu in goal, Forebalo Torre at left back, replacing Theo Hernandez, who got the red card. Simon Kjaer and Tomori, your strongest center back pairing. Davide Calabria, your best right back at the moment. And then Kessie and Tonali. We have Benacer, who will be able to come off the bench just in case one of the players is just looking fatigued, or, you need some injection of, a different attacking output in the midfield. That can happen. I'm a bit questionable about the Krunic start. I would think that Diaz would probably get the start over Krunic. And if that was the case, Krunic would come off the bench for Diaz if Diaz was looking fatigued or things aren't going the way that Pioli wants it to go. Rafael Leao has been in a spectacular form, 4 goals in the Serie A this season. Zlatan Ibrahimovic will be the leader of this team. He knows how immense this derby is. We've seen in the past when he shows up to the derbies, last time, the big fight with him and Lukaku, fireworks. And Alexis Salamaker's there on the right wing position. He's a bit lucky to be able to have the start because Junior Messias is still injured. But if Messias wasn't injured, I think Salamakers would probably get the boot here. So he's been a bit poor in form. Just ever since his contract renewal, he's just been putting average performances. For a right winger, he's only had 1 assist and 1 goal contribution, and he scored against Venezia. So, we're looking for a bit of an output from him. But other than that, this lineup is definitely what I expect to see for the derby.
Yeah, nice one, man. So now it's just all time to do the all-important embarrassing part and predict where this is going to go. And let's just talk about it specifically. So even just keeping this lineup up on the board right now, Alex, Zlatan scares the shit out of me, man. He's just an amazing athlete. He will go down as one of my favorite players of all time. I've already said he was my favorite player when he was at Inter when I was in high school. And I just, this cream of the crop, this Ronaldo, Ibrahimovic, Messi breed, it's absolutely incredible. And he's a part of that breed, because this is a very special athlete, not just on a physical, but on a psychological level, man. He scares the hell out of me starting this game at however old he is.
Yeah, I think maybe the only thing that you can guarantee in this match, because the derbies can be unpredictable, but the one thing that feels guaranteed is Ibra is going to score at some point. And he tends to score early in this fixture. Like it would not surprise me if within the first 7 or 8 minutes, Milan scored the opening goal. That's I'm kind of bracing myself for that. We've seen that happen multiple times over the last couple of seasons since he returned to Milan. So that's sort of the one thing I'm expecting. I always have a hard time predicting this fixture, and I know that for the last 4 or 5 years, even a little bit longer, Inter have tended to get the better results. Sometimes you say about Milan derbies that it doesn't really matter who's in better form. I mean, obviously, both teams are in good form. I mean, Milan have been in good form domestically for longer than Inter have, but Inter have been in good form as of late as well. I don't know if form matters anyway. I look at these two sides, and I am expecting goals. So I am going to give the incredibly gutless prediction of a 2-2 draw. I don't know if I feel that great about either side winning this game comfortably. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw for this one, and hopefully it's entertaining, that everyone gets their money and their time's worth.
Absolutely. Miguel, your prediction, my friend.
Yeah, like Alex said, this is a difficult one. Going into the derby, form does play a role, but at the end of the day, when it comes to a derby and a rivalry game, it's really about who wants it more that day, who is going to fight more on the 50-50s, who is going to outrun the person that is, tracking back on them or whatever. And I think that, both teams coming into this game, really good form, but I feel like Milan might have the advantage here just because they haven't been defeated in the Serie A, so they're going to want to retain that. They want to keep that and stay level with Napoli. So I think that this might go in Milan's favor with the 2-1 scoreline. I do think that Inter are going to put up a fight, but I do think that because Milan have that league form, and it seems like they're going to crash out of the Champions League because it just hasn't worked in our favor, that they're just going to put all their bins in for Serie A like Inter did last season and try to win the competition.
Yeah, we can recommend it. Is a good strategy, man. We can highly recommend it. It makes a world of difference. It really honestly does. In your position right now, if it's not going to be second, it might as well be fourth in that group. But for this particular game, I would have to say, similar to the gentleman that I've got on now, I think it will be tight. I think it will be those 50-50s. It just really could be one of those games where you get to the 75th, 80th minute, and whoever grabs the winner deserves to grab the winner because it's just one of those derbies. For me, I've just got 1-1. I've got the betting slip to prove it because 1-1 is usually my default result for these sort of games. I just like the Juve game. As I said before that, I didn't want it decided by controversy and the penalty spot.
Yeah,
but, you know, water is also wet, just like playing that team. So I've got a little bit more faith in this particular match. So I think that the game will be decided in passion and on talent on the pitch, which I'm really, really excited for. So thank you so much to my amazing guests. It's been short, sweet, but really successful. Thank you so much, Alex Donno, for joining us on Inter Worldwide. And I have no doubt we will chat soon.
It's my pleasure. And let me just add, this one, just this individual game, it feels like it's more important to Inter, doesn't it? Because they're -7 on Milan. So it's like if Milan draw or lose, it's not that big of a deal. But if Inter lose and they're -10 on Milan, it's still early in the season, but being 10 points back of a very good team like that, that's going to feel borderline catastrophic. So hopefully Inter gets something out of this game.
Absolutely, man. That completely slipped me, to be honest. Just without even realizing it. Like I said at the start of the show, had Milan and Napoli not been having stellar seasons, this season under Inzaghi would be looking like a really, really good debut season, man, taking over Conte. But fantastic seasons from Spalletti's Napoli and from Pioli's Milan. And that's where we sit now, -7, looking to close that gap. Miguel, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk Calcio with passionate fans. I just love this, and best of luck to both of you gentlemen. The Derby on Sunday. Hopefully you guys get the result, but I'm not hoping that you get the result because I want Milan to win.
Fair enough.
That's probably the nicest thing a Derby fan has ever said on my platform, to be honest. You can find Alex Donno at the Calcio Connection Network, where he does the amazing, amazing Calcio Connection podcast with the ever illustrated Jerry Mancini. It's absolutely brilliant. Check it out and subscribe to the Patreon as well. And you can find Miguel at his Twitter handle right there listed, and on his YouTube channel as well, Milano Miguel, match reviews and all that awesome Milan content as well. Thank you so much for joining us from all of us at Inter Worldwide. Forza Inter. Ciao ragazzi.